to... Going, yes, we're back. Hello. Oh my god, let me get settled. The sound is working this time. I don't know what was going on, but I just restarted my computer and everything's fine, which is it's so frustrating when that happens cuz it is a simple fix. But when you're in the middle of streaming, that's not convenient and you have to start all over. So thank God we weren't like halfway in and I no longer hear that weird sound echo I was experiencing earlier. So my apologies, and I'm gonna have to update all the links now. But let's just enjoy our time. So that's enough of that. Okay. Oh, my computer. No! It's just being crazy today. So let me pull up all my resources that I had up earlier. And, oh, I need to update my chat. Let's update the chat. And I thank you all for your patience. I really appreciate that. And please like the video. Please share it again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. um, where are we? Oh, yes. Chat. And as you all know, my name is Jan Erickson, and this is Mindful Monad, my YouTube channel. Excellent. So let's pop back on some music. See if that's working. Okay. Now we're good. See, now it's behaving. It's so weird. Like, I literally have not touched my setup since I guest streamed on the Hyperion Source Secret Live, like on Wednesday. So Wednesday, I have not touched my computer. I have not touched my setup. I just sat back down, plopped it open, and there was just chaos. So that's what I get for minding my own business. That's what we get. Do 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 do. Okay. Pulling up my sources again. We got some good, juicy content tonight, my friends. You know what? I'm just going to completely delete that old live stream. It doesn't even matter. Delete forever! That never happened. Nothing ever happened. We didn't have any problems, and we're just fine right now. Okay. So... we are going to be looking at content from the Daily Wire because they posted some new juicy stuff. And they've always just like been on the money with their crazy ideas and stuff. But I feel like they're just really digging their heels into things lately. And it's kind of stuff like we would suspect like them of talking about like 10 years ago that they weren't really outright coming out and saying. but they're just going ahead and doing that lately. And we're going to take a look at our favorite, Jordon Peterson, who has really just taken a stand against Pride Month and all that stuff. Let's see, Jordon Peterson. We're not going to be looking at his dream about his grandmother's pubes this time, though. What? Excellent. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming back and being patient and starting over and pretending like the last stream didn't freaking happen at all. Let me just brush over people. Paul Cherry, good to see you. She-Wolf, Dark Remus, hello. John Jerome, Laura LaFleur, Cassidy, Anticrisis, our moderators, if you made it back, thank you so much. Cynthia, hello. Renaissance Fairy, Zero, good to see you. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you so much for coming back in. And please, if somebody has lost their way, please help them find their way back here. Like I said, I'm going to have to change the links and all my... It kind of messes it up, honestly, but whatever. Do. Boo, boo, boo. Do. Ba-bum, bum, bum. Dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. We lost our way, and now we're back with a monad attack. Okay. Hello, Tyler, who's lurking. We see you. So, anyways, I would love to get into, first of all, I would love to just bring up recent quote-unquote controversy with Jordon Peterson, and we've already had kind of an introduction to him, so I think it's perfect to just carry on with covering whatever shenanigans he's up to. Crazy old gal. And so recently he's gotten banned from Twitter for making a post about Elliot Page. Now, if you're not familiar with Elliot Page is somebody who recently came out as non-binary and trans. So, that is Elliot Page. And they are a very good fucking actor. He's a fabulous actor. I enjoy their content. I first have known him from appearing in Trailer Park Boys, like when they were like very, very little, and Trailer Park Boys being like one of my favorite shows. So Elliot Page is great, and Elliot Page just got his top surgery. So Jordon Peterson decided to make a comment about this top surgery and refer to Elliot Page by their dead name, as in like their previous name, which doesn't matter. It's just there's no reason for us to bring that up. But there is this thing and kind of an obsession with Jordon Peterson and Twitter. Jordon Peterson is rather obsessed about Twitter and the whole cancel culture, so much that he just like, it's almost like a straw man thing with him. Like, he'll do something and nobody's really reacting, but he'll act as if people are reacting and trying to cancel him, when it's just like, nobody cares. It's Twitter, dude. So many people get temporarily banned on Twitter all the time. It's business as usual. You say something that went too far, and what you do is you delete it and you move on. And so Jordon Peterson is digging his heels into the issue with Elliot Page. Okay, so hi Susan, thank you. So for those of you who are just coming back in, we are just briefly looking at what Jordon Peterson recently said about Elliot Page by dead naming Elliot Page and on Twitter and getting a Twitter ban, and now he's throwing a holy shit fit. And I have to watch it because there's some things he says in there. And the reason why I'm looking at people like Jordon Peterson and Ben Shapiro and things like that is because these are people that are looked up to by a lot of people. Like, a lot of people look up to these people. And they deserve criticism to the max. Absolutely. So, you know, the streaming is a direction that I really love to go. It feels more natural. I mean, I love writing essay videos, but I love streaming and I love just getting right to the point. So I look at people like Jordon Peterson because other people are looking up to him, and people like Ben Shapiro, and they're taking it seriously, and it's just it deserves some criticism and sometimes scrutiny. So, yes, Jordon Peterson made a Twitter about Elliot Page, referring to them by their dead name in response to Elliot Page celebrating his top surgery. And Jordon Peterson doesn't like that they did that they had the top surgery. So I want to watch Jordon Peterson's response to it. It's like this 15-minute video. And yeah, let's check it out. Let's just dive right in, shall we? Oh, wait. Okay, hold on. Hold your horses 1 second. Who's eating what? I want to know what snacks you're having. Give it up. Give it up, monads. Give me them snacks. Who's got snacks? She-Wolf has waffles. R1 has an apple. I have beer. That's my snack. That's a snack. Cassie has a nectarine and popcorn. Tyler just had bar food. Okay, but what kind of bar food? Cassidy has strawberries. Oh. John Jerome. Oh my, you got barbecue chicken pizza. Anticrisis has fig and black olive crackers. Yeah. What do you mean a joke? There's no joke about waffles. We got banana chips. We got some veggie pizza monstrosity. That sounds like a fart pizza. I'm not judging, but for me personally, if I ate that, oh, you all would be dead if you were in the same room with me. I just had dinner. I had a grilled cheese and a sandwich and tomato soup. And I put so much cheese in the tomato soup and stuff, so really it was like cheese soup. And then the grilled cheese sandwich was just so packed full of cheese. I mean, so I essentially just made an object of cheese, crispy cheese and bread, to serve as a vessel for the cheese soup. So a vessel for more cheese into my avatar hole. So now I'm very full of cheese. I have the cheese sweats, and I am high on casein. Cheese fixes everything. Okay, so everybody's got their snacks. Jordon Peterson is now going to have a big theatrical explanation of why he was banned on Twitter. Let's watch. Hold on. What? He just did it. He just dead named them again. And I love how it's done as if it's like a slip up. Like, whoops. Like, that was on purpose. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? You can't hear that? You got it? You can't hear it? Hmm. We're still having problems with the sound. How about that?
On the increasingly heated
That?
culture war front in response to the decision
Do
of
we
an
hear it now?
actress actor named Ellen
Right there?
Elliott Page. I am employing this awkward and
Good now? Okay. All right. John, John, John Jerome, he's like, that's fine. we don't, we don't need any of this. I mean, I know we don't need any of this. The world doesn't need any of this, and that's exactly why I'm like ridiculing everything that he says. Okay, okay.
hello everyone. A few days ago I penned an irritated tweet in response to one of the latest happenings on the increasingly heated culture war front.
He's such a baddie.
In response to the decision of an actor named Ellen Elliott Page.
I love. He says it like it's like a freaking like slip up. Like it's like confusing. Like he's doing it on purpose. That's what's irritating me about this.
I am employing this awkward and impossible naming style because it is now apparently mandatory.
Why is it impossible? It's not impossible. It's so easy. Someone is no longer named one thing and is named something else. How is he considered like some big, deep, rational thinker when he's labeling the simplest of fucking social gestures as something as impossible?
And am probably doing it wrong nonetheless, as you're doing it wrong is the whole point of what is being made mandatory. But also, I'm trying to make a point. I've essentially been banned from Twitter as a consequence. I say banned, although technically I have been suspended. But the suspension will...
Yeah, okay. So yeah, like I was saying earlier, he's being suspended. He's being suspended temporarily. You know how many freaking like regular Twitter people get suspended? Like it's business as usual. You get suspended, you backtrack, you delete your tweet, you move on. Like it's just so weird, and it's just like this guy's older than me. Like this is a grown ass man with dramatic freaking lighting and two camera angles and just like all dressed up and all gussied up in a professional production to complain that he got suspended on Twitter. On Twitter. It's a private platform.
will not be lifted unless I delete the hateful tweet in question, and I would rather die than do that. And hopefully it will not...
Can we give him an ultimatum, please? Just saying. I'd rather die.
come to that, although who the hell knows in these increasingly strange days. What was it that I said that caused such a fuss. And that fuss is just beginning. And even more importantly and complexly, what exactly was it that I said that resulted in the ban?
You just asked that.
Here's the tweet in question. Remember when pride was a sin? And Ellen Page just had her breasts removed by a criminal physician. Then a link to a story that detailed out the happening.
This is, I mean, yeah, that's terrible. Okay, so first of all, remember when pride was a sin? First of all, that has heavy religious, more moralistic connotation to it. And then just refers to Elliot Page as their dead name and referred to their trans care surgery as something that as criminal, and also referred to the physician who performed it as criminal. There are so many things wrong with this. Like, I don't know where to begin. Do I begin with the crappy religious moralistic first sentence? Do I start with the dead naming, or referring to a physician as criminal for performing, like, general trans care? I don't know. What was that? I'd rather die than delete this. Ugh.
The response from Twitter, quote, violating our rules against hateful conduct. You may not promote violence against, threaten, or harass other people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity.
What did you do? That's what you did.
Religious affiliation, age, disability, or serious disease. By clicking delete, you acknowledge that your tweet violated the Twitter rules. Delete. If you think we've made a mistake, submit an appeal to us. Please note that, should you do so, your account will remain locked while we review your appeal. Let's take this apart. First,
let's take this apart. What are we taking apart? The very explicit, like, reading of what you actually did. You promoted, like, terrible, nasty hate speech against, like, gender and all, and trans people and LGBTQ. Like, let's take this apart. Take what apart? Like, you just said it. And this is, you know, the one thing I will say about Jordon Peterson is that if you don't have, like, a very good basis in philosophy for yourself and things like that, Jordon Peterson seems, emphasis on seems, intelligent. So he's literally like a stupid person's idea of a smart man. But more scary is genuine people are really falling for it. A lot of young people really like Jordon Peterson. This isn't something, as you know, as much as I laugh at him and stuff like that, there's this other side where I'm really concerned. Sorry, I'm burping a lot. But yeah, no, there's a side of me that's very concerned because people take him seriously. And for those who take him seriously, good luck.
it is clearly the case that I did not promote violence against or threaten anyone.
Yeah, you did. You're perpetuating a reality in which trans people can't exist or don't exist. That is something that is studied to be a root of hate crimes, genocide, things like that. Like, of course it's violent. It's just being a dick. Like, it's a dick move. It's a prick move. Absolute prick move.
With my missive. So that leaves the arguably lesser sin of harass. Let's assume, since I wasn't informed, that that was the crime. And further, harassment on the basis of so-called
Oh my god, he needs like a little table with like a tea set and his pinky extended. Like, what is this, Masterpiece Theater?
gender identity. Since Twitter did not do me the favor of actually specifying my crime, and there are many possibilities on that front.
Okay, let me be the one to tell you that Jordon Peterson knows exactly what he's doing. As much as I like to, he is dumb. He really is. He's not dumb in what he's doing. He's purposefully carving a narrative that makes him seem like a victim, when in reality he knew precisely what he was doing when he typed that. I mean, you can't shit in your hand and chuck it at the wall and go, "Oops, how did that get there? This is very interesting. Let's break it down." Like, no, you shit in your hand and you threw it against the wall, honey. Like, you knew what you were doing when you did it.
We unfortunately have to guess at why this has occurred, and that's actually a big problem in and of itself, and also indicative of the utter carelessness of the Twitter organization with regard to the propriety of its own censorial actions. I should at least know exactly what I did wrong if I am required to acknowledge that my tweet violated the Twitter rules. What rules, you sons of bitches? Exactly.
Ooh! What? I gotta hear that
To
again.
the propriety of its own censorial actions. I should at least know exactly what I did wrong if I am required to acknowledge that my tweet violated the Twitter rules. What rules, you sons of bitches? Exactly. Precisely.
I'm sorry. It's so funny. It's so funny. It's so funny how mad he's getting at a situation that he created himself. And I don't know, like, who's getting mad at this? Like, who's, like, getting after him? It's almost like he's jumping the gun. He knows exactly. He laid out the rules in the beginning. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Matter when the accusations start flying. So what did I say that might constitute harassment? Well, many things, hypothetically. Let's begin with, remember when pride was a sin? Although that is merely a factual statement, because under the old rules applicable even a decade ago, pride was a sin and had...
So, yes, it is a fact that to this Christian morality in the Bible or whatever, that pride is a sin. But he's saying, like, it's a fact as if it's, like, objectively true for all humans, which it's not. Absolutely not. In hyperianism, we say there is no objective morality. And for those who think religiously, the first thing their brain jumps to when they hear that there's no objective morality, is that, like, well, people are just going to go killing and R-wording each other, and it's going to be mass hysteria, and everyone's going to turn animalistic. But that's so far from the truth. That's speculation. That's absolutely not the case, and that's a fact. So it's just it's weird that he's going into this. Obviously, he's religious as hell. We're only in the first 4 minutes, and we haven't even gotten to the other material yet. Like, honeys, this actually might spread over the course of the next few Fridays. Actually, I don't know. Like, there's so many things to spread off into conversation here. And hello, everybody who just came in. Heather Temarino, good to see you. Dark Remus. If I said hello to you before in the old stream, we had to start over, long story short. So, just kind of like catching up again. Tyler, everybody, Laura LaFleur. So, anyways, going back to Jordon Peterson. Welcome, everybody, as we break down Jordon Peterson. There's not really much to break down. It's just so funny. It really is just unreal to see this older gentleman who's supposedly of high stature in the high thought community or whatever the fuck it's called. And this is the most overproduced toddler tantrum I've ever seen. Like, usually kids just, like, cry, like, in their Instagram stories about how they got, like, banned on Twitter, or, like, temporarily suspended on Twitter, and then they'll just, like, delete their thing and everything, and just, but, like, this is just so overly produced. It's so... It's so contrived. It's just entirely too contrived. It's just bad acting. Normal people don't think like this. And what's scary is there's people like Jordon Peterson out there who are just in the business of gaining followers' attention, support, and in particularly from religious people. Getting support from religious people is really fucking easy. If I was to snap my fingers and decide to go like Bizarro Land and not be like a Hyperion creator, if I decided to become a religious creator, I could freaking get my YouTube up like it was fucking hot shit. Like, I could rock that so hard and get so much support and so much money, but I don't. You know why? Because I'm not about that. I'm not about that. I want to help humanity. I want to be known for being a rational person. And unfortunately, rational, philosophical people, philosopher-type people are just dirt poor through eons and throughout all of human history. So, but if I wanted to be rich, I could totally be a Jordon Peterson supporter. That would be awful. Whew.
Been recognized as perhaps the cardinal sin for thousands of years previously. It still might be regarded as unacceptable to the woke authoritarian moralists who now insist, for example, that we celebrate Pride Month, not our.
The woke authoritarian moralists. That doesn't sound quite Hyperion. Definitely, we're not in that encampment, but I hear what he's saying, but still, it's very, this is very strange. I need to take off my sweater. It's getting hot in here. Jordon Peterson's so spicy right now. It's getting hot in here. My hair, I feel like I did trim my hair and it's just a tad too short. Like, I wish I had like more hanging down the front here, but hair does grow. Anyways. I need more dramatic lighting so I can match Jordon Peterson's lighting. His Rembrandt lighting. You know, the little triangle on the cheek. Thank you. I know, I don't put it, I'm like, I should put on makeup and, like, put some product in my hair, and then I'm like, no, I'm lazy, and then I sit in front of the camera, and then I'm like, I wish I would have done my makeup or put product in my hair. But oh well, I just like sitting here.
Or day or week, but month, and to have literally called it Pride Month.
I'm sorry, what?
Instead of authoritarian moralists who now insist, for example, that we celebrate Pride Month, not hour or day or week, but month. And to have literally called it
not hour, we have Pride Month, not Pride Hour, not Pride Day, not Pride Week, but Pride Month. we don't have Pride Minute. That is beyond silly. That has nothing to do with anything.
Pride Month.
A whole month. You know what, Jordan? You keep at it. It's going to be a whole Pride year.
instead of LGBT plus month or whatever else alphabet acronym which is currently insisted upon as the only acceptable enlightened.
LGBTQ plus. It's not that fucking hard. God, he's so cucked by this like liberal moral authoritarian figure, like trans figure. Like he's so cucked by it. It's almost like you just listen to him talk about a boogeyman. Like any rational thought is considered like a boogeyman.
Terminology. I don't regard pride as a virtue. It has been classically regarded as a sin. I don't see that sexual orientation or sexual desire of any sort is something to celebrate or to take pride in. And so what I said was merely a fact. Now, it's possible that I hurt someone's feelings.
Oh my God.
Because
I'm sorry, but you cannot use, and I'm sorry, this also, I've seen this happen in people who debate hyperianism and stuff. You cannot insert words into your sentences like fact and reason. Like, I'm speaking with reason. I'm just saying a fact. Like, you can't say these things in of themselves as a qualifier. Like, it's not a magic wand. You can't just tell somebody, well, I'm being reasonable and stating facts. Like, you can say that sentence and still be very, very wrong. It's not a magic wand that you insert in your sentences to signify to the other person that you're right. That's not how that works. And that bugs me too. It's just that, well, this is a fact. Like, a fact, like how? Because facts can be interpreted different ways.
as I pointed out that pride goes before, for example, a fall, but I don't care about that.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's what. So this is what's happening. He got suspended from Twitter, and what he said in Twitter is he made a comment about, or he made a Twitter post about Elliot Page, the very famous trans actor, and referred to them as their dead name, so their previous name, and uh, they described them, Elliot Page, getting their top surgery, getting their breasts removed, as something that was just terrible, and referred to the surgeon as somebody doing something criminal. And so Twitter suspended him. They're like, that's hate speech. And so here he is, fully aware of what he did, acting like it's an atrocity. And Jordon Peterson is looked up to by so many people, and on top of that, it's like he just makes up and talks about this sort of boogeyman that doesn't really exist, and he's just so reactionary that he jumps the gun, and before anybody actually reacts or even gives a shit, he's acting like he's getting canceled right away. And so, like, I'm just looking at this. He's got, like, this big three-piece suit on. He's got his hair combed. He's got this, like, dramatic lighting and, like, two camera angles with, like, this dramatic thing to make it, like, appear like he's just being very astute and knowledgeable and presenting things very rationally, like a righteous anger. But really, he's being a child. This is children's bullshit.
Would do it again, and also consider it my duty to warn those who are about to fall into a pit that the path they are on leads suddenly downhill. But that was probably not the reason that I was banned from Twitter, although, as I said, I am in the position of having to guess. Next phrase to interrogate.
Yeah, Susan hit the nail on the head. Like, what he's really mad about is not being able to be an asshole. Because when he said that tweet, he knew what he was doing. It wasn't like, oops, like, here this is, uh-oh. And, like, then he's found himself in a situation. He set this up. on purpose. He's doing this with the mindset to get people roused up because nobody's actually really been like reacting super big to this. Twitter already did that, and in the very beginning of this video, he already laid out what Twitter's like rules and guidelines were, and then he goes again to say like, "Oh, well, what was it that I exactly did? Let's break it apart." It's like there's not really anything to break apart. You have fucked up ideas. You're an asshole. You're a dick. You're a big bag of dicks. You're the biggest bag of dicks, and not the kind of bag of dicks that I would like to have.
And Ellen Page.
Stop it.
Now, why did I stop there?
Because you're a dick.
Because in all likelihood, it was this seemingly innocuous phrase, including the name of a well-known actress. There, I'm in trouble again.
No, you're not.
That likely resulted in my ban. I committed the fatal crime of what has come to be known in the appalling sensorial terminology of the insane activists as dead naming, which is the act of referring to someone who has transitioned, another hated piece of jargon and slogan, by the name and by the inference, the gender, really the sex, that everyone knew them by previously, and in the case of Ellen/Elliot, that millions of people recognized and knew.
Stop it. If you're doing slashes, you know what you're doing.
Could have either called him, her, they, Elliot, instead of Ellen, although as we will discover, that would have made it impossible for me to say what I wanted to and need to say in the remaining phrases. Not that such a problem would bother those who are objecting to my speech in the first place.
And that's the problem. Not that those who like my speech to begin. Do you hear what he said? Like, it's not going to bother people that are liking to like my speech and like things that I say. That's why he deserves to be exposed as an asshole. Yeah, he's doing it on purpose all the time. Like, it's so ridiculous. It's like I'm saying it. It's like that kid. It's like that little kid or little brother sibling who like puts their finger right to your face, and you're like, "Mom, tell them to leave me alone." And then they're like, "But I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you." As they got their finger like right up to your face. "I'm not touching you though. I'm not touching you. But I'm not touching you." See, it's like, stop it. Stop it. It's that kind of an annoyance.
This phrase is, just had her breasts removed. This bit suffers from a very similar problem. I employed the forbidden pronoun her when Ellen, is now to be regarded as a he or else. But there's a conundrum here, to say the least, and not just for me, although I have been banned because of it. Was Elliot/Ellen a she or a he or Ellen or Elliot when she or he or they, that's Elliot or Elian by the way, had his or...
Yeah, we got it. We know what you're doing. Thank you. You don't need to reiterate it like 5 fucking times in the same sentence.
Or her or their breasts removed. If he or she was a he, then why was it necessary to have the mastectomy? And how could those I am writing to make sense of what I was saying if it was his breasts that were removed? Were those male breasts or female breasts that were removed? If they were male breasts, then why were they removed?
You understand it. You're purposefully confusing children at this point.
If they were female breasts and had therefore become objectionable to the degree that surgery generally reserved for cancer treatment was required, was morally obligatory, then wasn't Elliot still Ellen and he still she?
No. What the?
What
kind of he-she breast math is this? And I love how he says it so confidently. This man is paid to post this shit.
Possibly have written that sentence in any sensible manner whatsoever, while simultaneously making my point understandably and not breaking Twitter rules against so-called hateful conduct. And Elliot Page just had his breasts removed? Was he Elliot then? When exactly? Exactly. He was definitely Ellen at some point.
A child could understand this. A child, a literal child, can understand what's going on better than Jordon Peterson.
In the past, or so indicate all his, her, them, their film credits. Will all those have to be reshot since they employed the hated dead name? That doesn't exist, by the way, that dead name category, except in the sensorial and addled minds of a tiny fraction of insanely narcissistic and increasingly dangerous trans activists. When precisely was it incumbent on me to switch my terminology in regard to Elliot/Ellen so that I was not engaging in hateful conduct? And how can I describe the fact that someone who was once a woman, and really still is, had her breasts cut off because she, he, they, their, them had fallen prey to a viciously harmful fad without using the appropriate sex-linked pronoun and the real name of the real person to whom this was really done with his, her, their voluntary but unfortunate acquiescence? And
None of this makes sense.
so it was impossible.
Literally none of this. Like everything. Like it's so weird. He's like I'm skipping ahead because like none of. He's taking something so simple that can be understood by like a 5-year-old child, and he's like purposefully convoluting it. Like it's not hard to understand. It hurts. It literally hurts me to listen to this.
Enough to some degree. But I don't believe it is either merely picayune or inappropriate to point out that Ellen/Elliot, who is quite a good actor/actress, is also a...
I like how he says it correctly the first time. Elliot is a good actor. Could have just left it at that. No, had to pull in the
ritual
slashes.
model for emulation, being a star with all the privileges and, let us point out, the responsibilities that go along with that. So by acquiescing to this surgery and by publicizing it, and by insisting upon the sanctity and the moral virtue of his, her, their new, expensive, dangerous, and medically enhanced identity, and by participating in the whole identity charade, Ellen/Elliot has undoubtedly...
Mr. Jordon Peterson, if you want to talk about the real identity charade, let's talk about everybody being pretty much brainwashed at birth. No, that's really a thing. Like, literally everybody who grows up anywhere in any kind of, like, culture, under any kind of, like, parental figure, like, for anything, like, you are to some degree brainwashed. You grow up in a certain perspective and reality tunnel of life. So, like, if we're gonna talk about some sort of identity charade, let's talk about the identity charade that Jordon Peterson has, where he's just so out of touch of himself, with himself, that he's having dreams about his grandmother's pubes. Because he's got such a warped, like, vision of, like, what femininity is and women is and gender. He's got his grandmother in his dreams painting his face with her pubes, trying to tell him to chill the fuck out.
Undoubtedly, with his, her, their so-called courage, and remember the White House itself has tweeted out every indication of believing in the courage of those who transition, enticed many a poor, confused adolescent, girl most likely, to blame her emergent pubescent self-consciousness, confusion, and discomfort on being born in the wrong body and believing that the courageous, self-affirming, and morally admirable route is hormonal treatment, sterilization, subjugation to a lifetime of expensive medical complication. How delightfully profitable is that? And misery.
A lifetime? No.
And I believe firmly that Ellen...
I'm sorry, like, there is a point in time where your transition is... It's not like people are transgender and they're perpetually transitioning forever. Like, there is an end goal.
/Elliot, or whatever the hell her name or his name is, bears...
Hell, his name or her name is... Sit down, you freaking scarecrow-looking bastard.
moral culpability for that. And finally, with regard to the final phrase,
he would be the perfect, perfect actor for, Scarecrow. If I only had a brain. I'm sorry. I could I could understand gender and I wouldn't detonate people if I only had a brain. Like, he really looks like he would be the perfect scarecrow. Doesn't he? Like, wouldn't he be the perfect scarecrow? Motherfucker needs to find his goddamn mind.
Physician. I must say that I've had some post-coital, so to speak, regrets about that phrase. It is clearly the case that the surgical operation performed by the butchers who butchered Elliot/Ellen was legal. So, was it criminal or not?
No.
Were the
you
operations
dumbass.
undertaken by the fascist physicians who carried out the Nazi medical experiments legal? Yes, under the laws of the time. But were they criminal? I'll leave that question up to you to answer.
That is not a profound mic drop moment. That is not a profound mic drop moment. No, honey, no. Oh, my lord, no.
And further, perhaps it might be objected, what about the damage done by hypothetically leaving those confused about their identity to dwell in their confusion? Aren't we morally obliged to intervene? And I would say, no. Why? Well, first, do no harm, as the Hippocratic Oath, remember that, insists. And second, it has been a matter of historical consensus that sins of omission are less egregious than sins of commission. Thus, leaving someone with gender dysphoria, no matter how warranted, and perhaps it is in a very tiny minority of truly unfortunate cases, to suffer the consequences of the theoretical mismatch between soul and body is less of a risk ethically.
What the word salad?
It has been a matter of
I'm backtracking. Hold on. What the word salad?
historical consensus that sins of omission are less egregious than sins of commission. Thus, leaving someone with gender dysphoria, no matter how warranted, and perhaps it is in a very tiny minority of truly unfortunate cases, to suffer the consequences of the theoretical mismatch between soul and body is less of a risk ethically, personally, socially, and philosophically than the extremely active intervention that constitutes so-called gender-confirming, another hated phrase, surgery. I might also point out that the trans surgery enterprise is now a $300 million per annum growth industry, rate of projected expansion 15% per year.
And that's still nothing compared to what the rich elite rake in. Absolutely, like you could take that and compare that with like 50 different other like corporations and companies and businesses and franchises that are like making way more money off of like more bullshit things. So like don't even.
Projected increase by 2027 to $750 million per year. An expanding enterprise in a time of global uncertainty. Time to invest, both in the requisite surgical skills and perhaps in any industry associated with this vicious and unconscionable fad, primarily entangling, as such things so often do, the youthful and female. Isn't that a concern, intersectionalists? No. Not when push comes to shove or ideology to scalpel. Is that not a true moral hazard? And I'm not taking down that tweet or acknowledging that my tweet violated the Twitter rules.
Good. Stay off Twitter. Nobody cares.
Up yours, woke moralists.
Up yours, woke moralists. You see this weird boogeyman that he's like talking about? This weird, like, very specific, like, type of person.
We'll see who cancels who. Twitter's a rat hole in the final analysis, and I have probably contributed to that while trying to use, understand, and master that horrible, toxic platform.
That's literally the only thing he said that's right. This whole fucking thing is that Twitter is a horrible, toxic platform.
No doubt I owe some apologies for that, and I'm trying to learn. But it's a relief in some real sense to be banned. And I regard it under the present conditions as a
You're
badge
not banned. You're not banned. You're suspended.
of honor.
I'm sorry. Like, that was honestly, I, I don't understand watching like somebody who just put like such a production, like a literal, like a literal theatrical production with the lighting and the cameras and the vitriol. Like, he literally put on a theatrical production to complain about being temporarily suspended from Twitter for being a dick. He wasn't actually making any good philosophical points or bringing up anything interesting in his tweet that he got banned for. He was just quite literally being an asshole. And here he is breaking it down as if it's something to break down philosophically, which it isn't. We all might have just wasted the last, 30 minutes of our lives to that. I apologize. But so, Daily Wire has this backstage live thing, and it's like 3.5 hours, and we're definitely not going to be watching all of that. So I kind of just want to skim forward to. I want to look at Jordon Peterson again, what he's saying, and then potentially like Matt Walsh, but we'll see how far we get into this before my head explodes.
Political moment. This is called why there are.
I don't know. What is happening? They don't even have the stream like broken up.
The black rifles.
Let's see. What?
To those who deserved it, the American Armed Forces would win it every year. So, Ben, the thought of doing this whole series of very intense, but obviously fascinating and even entertaining videos with you I'm asked all the time, purpose. My life was standing at North. Have to ask every day, what do I have to do? I say, even though I have believed that if you just make logical
In the spring of 2023. We can't wait to go through the next 7 years with you.
Oh, here we go. Okay. More JP. Good night, Susan. Thank you so much. So- so- we got Tweedledee and
So-
Tweedledum up here.
That's a thing. So Jordon Peterson, it is obviously a massive honor having you on the Daily Wire Plus platform, bringing all this amazing content. To
Yeah,
millions
Jordon
more
Peterson
people, hundreds of
recently
millions more people.
joined Daily Wire.
And here's the thing, folks.
I think it was
the first
operating more
series
independently.
From Jordon Peterson is up right now, literally right now, at Daily Wire Plus. It is titled Dragons, Monsters, and Men. Take a look.
Oh, we might view that
One of
next
the
week.
things I tell
Who
young
knows?
men, well, and young women as well, but the young men really need to hear this more, I think. You should be a monster, an absolute monster, and then you should learn how to control it.
What?
So a man who's capable of aggression but has it under control is a way more useful man than one who cannot do that. And so you're willing to go get a job, but you're terrified of an interview. It's like, there's a dragon.
Okay, every man should be aggressive, but learn how to control that. That's like what Hyperion talks about. Only it's that shadow work for everybody, no matter what gender you are. But like Jordon Peterson is like trying to like reframe that for just men, and obviously just white men.
For you. Because you want to fight the dragons that guard the gates of the treasure that you wish to attain.
So you're a dragon, or you're
Productivity
fighting dragons?
requires aim, orientation, responsibility, discipline, that willingness to work, that willingness to make sacrifices, which is the hallmark of maturity in the service of a higher goal. It orients you solidly in the world if you do that, and it gives you a dragon to fight. What do you want to grow up? You want to be illiterate?
I don't know, just randomly, but it's popping up in my head. You know, Jordon Peterson's daughter not only almost tried to kill him, but she also dated like a documented sex trafficker.
You want
Just saying, if we're gonna throw some shade tonight.
to be inarticulate? You're going to have to negotiate. You're going to have to lead. You're going to have to convince. You're going to have to think. To say to a 18-year-old, you're okay the way you are, that just deflates them. You know, when you go to the gym and you start lifting weights, well, your body's going to transform, but it's not going to do that if you just sit around. You have to face your being with the necessity of transformation, and then all sorts of new things that you had no idea you were capable of will make themselves manifest.
I mean,
those are the
that's
dragons,
all right,
you know, the
but
ones that
it's
stand
coming from
in the
him,
path
so.
that leads to the light. And you have to say to yourself, I will do good nonetheless. Everyone great makes that decision. Make that decision, because maybe you're great.
Maybe you're great, but not Jordon Peterson. Oh my goodness. My God.
So, Jordan, obviously this new series, Dragons, Monsters, Men, the first one that we're doing together, this series is focused in on how men can be men. Why do you think there's such a crisis of masculinity in the first place, and why are there so many people out there who are angry at you for even talking to men?
Because you're
I think
misleading
you
them
could think
down a
about it
terrible
as
dark
a
path.
consequence, in some sense, of the lack of a concept of original sin, oddly enough. I mean, people bear an existential burden, you know. It's an intrinsic part of life to, I suppose, to feel guilty in relationship to nature and to feel guilty in
What?
relationship to culture.
What?
You know, it's difficult for us to live in harmony with the natural world, and for the natural world to live in harmony with us, by the way.
I have so many questions. I'm sorry. He throws these phrases around like difficulty, like with a relationship to nature and things like that. And that like you're. I can't make any sense of this. There's so many questions. Like he's saying things. He's saying particular like words. But then it's like, what do you mean by this word specifically? Because you can say a word when you're talking about something philosophically, and it could mean so many different things. So when you're having a conversation, you have to have you have to have an establishment of what you mean by certain words. Like, okay, so in this context, what do we mean by nature? In this context, what do we mean by like guilt, things like that? Guilt about what? God, let me backtrack that a little bit. Oh, I backtracked it too much.
Beth,
Oh no.
Why do you think there is such a crisis of masculinity in the first place, and why are there so many people out there who are angry at you for even talking to men?
Well, I think you could think about it as a consequence, in some sense, of the lack of a concept of original sin, oddly enough. I mean,
A lack of concept of original sin.
people bear
Religious.
an existential burden, you know. It's an intrinsic part of life to, I suppose, to feel guilty in relationship to nature.
Intrinsically, you should feel guilt in your relationship to nature. Like, what does that even mean?
And to feel guilty in relationship to culture. You know, it's difficult for us to live in harmony with the natural world, and for the natural world to live in harmony with us, by the way. And none of us are all we could be on the social front. And one of the consequences, and so we have that sense intrinsically, you know, that there's a lack in us that needs to be redressed. And unfortunately, that can be weaponized, and has been. And what I see happening to young men in particular, boys as well, not just young men, and maybe even, you know, maybe starting at the age of toddlers, is that we have this sense in the world that human beings live in antagonism to nature and that we're actually a malevolent force. And that our social structures, which are clearly capable of the commission of atrocity, are fundamentally oppressive, patriarchal in their nature. And so then if you're a male in a society with that ethos, the motive force that drives you into the world to live is associated with rapaciousness and despoliation on the natural front, and then oppression and atrocity on the social front. It's like, well then, if you're the least bit conscientious, because this sort of accusation hurts conscientious young men the most, then the best you can do is, well, let's say castrate yourself. How would that be? And that would be real comic.
I'm sorry. I have sat down and I have listened to plenty of philosophers in boring ass philosophy lectures, and even like lectures on science and mathematics and shit. And even if I don't like get everything like right away, I can still sort of like follow that there's something being said here to follow along with. But like, he's literally just making word salad. Is it me, or is he just literally like doing word salad? It's almost like he's he's being like way too fancy with his wording.
Except that it's also happening. So I guess that's why I think there's a crisis. And there's something serious at the root of it, right? Because we do have to take the fact of the potential damage we can do to the natural world and the social world. We have to take that seriously, but the proper consequence of taking that seriously is not to commit harikiri, let's say, in a fit of moral anxiety and take yourself completely out of the game. But that's the insistence now, and it's really, and I see that psychoanalytically, you know, I see that as a manifestation at a symbolic level of something like, well, symbolically, that's associated with the devouring mother, right? It's an overweening and destructive false compassion that has this devouring quality. And yeah, and that's basically where we're at.
So
I'm sorry. My microphone like fell down, but like, am I seeing like a shadow self? Am I seeing like a Freudian slip here? I'm totally seeing a Freudian slip. Come on. He's taught, like, I swear this is like a slip about like what's happened to
It's an
him.
intrinsic part of life to, I suppose, to feel guilty in relationship to nature and to feel guilty in relationship to culture. It's difficult for us to live in harmony with the natural world, and for the natural world to live in harmony with us, by the way. And none of us are all we could be on the social front. And one of the consequences, and so we have that sense intrinsically, that there's a lack in us that needs to be redressed. And unfortunately, that can be weaponized and has been. And what
The way he says the word intrinsically, like, I just feel it, like, I don't think that word means what you think it means.
I see happening to young men in particular, boys as well, not just young men, and maybe even, maybe starting at the age of toddlers, is that we have this sense in the world that human beings live in antagonism to nature and that we're actually a malevolent force.
I guess,
And
where are
that
you
our
getting that
social
from?
structures, which are clearly capable of the commission of atrocity, are fundamentally oppressive, patriarchal in their nature. And so then if you're a male in a society with that ethos, the motive force that drives you into the world to live is associated with rapaciousness and despoliation on the natural front, and then oppression and atrocity on the social front. It's like, well, then, if you're the least bit conscientious, because this sort of accusation hurts conscientious young men the most, then the best you can do is, well, let's say castrate yourself. How would that be? And that would be real comical, except that it's also happening. So
Where? Where is it happening? Where is this Where is this castration happening? He just throws in these weird, like, things that just makes things seem scary. Like, who's being castrated?
Yes, that's why I think there's a crisis. And there's something serious at the root of it, right? Because we do have to take the fact of
There's something serious at the root of this.
the potential damage we can do to the natural world and the social world. We have to take that seriously, but the proper consequence of taking that seriously is not to commit harikiri, let's say, in a fit of moral anxiety and take yourself completely out of the game. But that's the insistence now, and it's really...
No, okay. Nobody is insisting men and masculinity needs to, like, go fuck off. Like, even in hyperianism, that very vehemently supports feminine energy and the feminine, uprising and all that stuff. Like, it's never with the sense of, like, we just need to just castrate the men and make them all eunuchs and no more men. Like, first of all, there goes my sex drive if we cast out all men, because I love men and I love cis men. I love to fuck cis men. So that's just, like, it's just weird. Like, there's this idea, like, in a progressive future. I don't know what boogeyman with these ideas that men should be completely wiped out. But, no, it's just... The idea of man and masculinity just needs to be re-examined a bit.
I see that psychoanalytically. I see that as a manifestation at a symbolic level of something like, well, symbolically, that's associated with the devouring mother, right? It's an overweening and destructive.
This devouring mother, this overweening devouring mother thing that he's describing right now, I feel like is a complete self-report. And it's like, I feel like the Hyperion Nancy Drew. We're just collecting clues. We're on the case, girls. We're about to meet the old man down by the river and figure out, like, who's behind the real catastrophe here. But just, like, I'm totally putting together what's going on with Jordon Peterson's shadow. He is very, very wounded and inflicted by a woman figure in his life, a feminine figure in his life. I don't know what happened to him, but something happened and he's just become extremely untrustworthy of women and is trying to like build up masculinity in it in this weird way. What's strange though is the way that he defends masculinity. He doesn't even like uh, represent that like visually or in any sense.
Of false compassion that has this devouring quality. And yeah, and that's basically where we're at.
So, it's one of the things that's striking about the sort of hatred that you've gotten from so many is that you've literally been asked why you're even bothering to speak to men. I mean, there is this crisis of masculinity, right? There is this idea that every form of masculinity is toxic, and you've spent your life trying to talk to men and say, no, you can channel that masculinity in not only a good way, but a necessary and productive and useful way. And people gotten angry at you for this. Where do you think...
Who are these people? Who are these people that are getting angry at this? Like who?
That's coming
Again, the boogeyman.
from? Why? That's obviously a good thing that you're doing. Why are so many people upset with you for that?
Well, the thing is, I never really set out to talk to men specifically, but I did set out, at least in part, to make a case for the utility of both the feminine and the masculine spirit, and it turned out that making the case for the masculine spirit was something that was more demanded by the culture, let's say. The anger, that's a complicated issue. We touched on some of it in relationship to the despoiling of nature and the idea of the oppressive and atrocity committing patriarchy.
Atrocity.
But then there's another issue too, which I think is germane. Because of family fragmentation, there's a very large number of women who have, just like there's a very large number of men who have never had a real word of encouragement in their whole life. It's a really sad thing to see. It's a really, really sad thing to see that deeply and to have seen that reflected in so many thousands of people. But there are many women who've never had a positive relationship with anyone male in their life. And so one of the consequences of that, we know, for example, that younger women are more likely to be attracted to men who show dark triad traits, narcissistic, Machiavellian, and psychopathic. And people who have those traits are characterized by the mimicry of competence. And so what women want in men more than anything else is competent generosity, and the data on that are very clear. But you can mimic that if you're narcissistic, and if you're a young woman, you can be deluded by that. It's partly because it points to the problem of dissociating competent confidence from the expression of power per se. So we could call power, I'll define that as the willingness and ability to use compulsion to attain your aims. Now, if you are someone who has a proclivity to manifest power, then that looks like the manifestation of both ambition and will. And if you haven't had a positive relationship with anyone masculine in your life, and maybe with not even with your own internal masculinity, say, you can't discriminate between power and the ambition that serves competence.
But what if in your journey of getting in touch with your inner masculinity, you find out that you are like a man? Like, what? Because this is just so weird. This sort of interplay of, and his ideas of masculinity and femininity. This is something that when moving forward, when I bring back Jordon Peterson on this live stream, this is the thing I want to examine the most, is his religious views and his ideas of what men and women is and what they should be doing, and his interpretation. Because, the Daily Wire here, as much as I dislike these people, and I find them annoying and irrational, they have a huge platform. They have a massive platform. People support and applaud this, and this is wrong and disgusting. But it's wrong and disgusting for all the wrong reasons. And Jordon Peterson thinks he knows why people don't like him, but he's not actually aware.
And so because that's terrifying, because the power, if you have
Jordan Peterson is trying very hard to categorize masculinity and femininity in a certain way. And he's trying to say, in many complicated ways, that masculinity these days is frowned upon and it's being attacked and it's being beaten down, and it's because of this overbearing, over nurturing, like archetype or feminine archetype. But, it's just so weird psychologically watching Jordan Peterson talk about the feminine energy and feminine force, because it becomes very convoluted the way, he's convoluted in the way he talks about many things, but especially when he talks about the feminine force, because he always tends to kind of self-report or like allude to having a very difficult relationship with femininity. So externally, Jordan Peterson is tackling this conundrum between the external world and masculinity, but inside of himself, internally, he's struggling with this interaction between feminine forces and his own sense of reasoning. Something happened to him. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he was like emasculated a lot, like as a child, but something happened to him for him to go down this path. And I'm kind of curious about that. I'm curious how he got this fucked.
Had only negative relationships with men, their capability to use power becomes such a threat that it has to be opposed at all costs, even if it manifests itself within the...
No, people aren't opposing masculine power in general. I think that's the big confusion when we're like, down with the patriarchy, like, down with the patriarchy, fuck the patriarchy, burn the patriarchy. The patriarchy is a very... Let's get into this. Let me look up patriarchy. I just want to see the official definition. I know what it is. I just want to be able to... See, that's what I was trying to go. Patriarchy is referred mostly in a political sense. It's a political connotation. But Jordan Peterson is conflating people who are saying down with the patriarchy with down with masculinity altogether. That's not what's happening. That's not what's happening for me. I love masculinity. It turns me on, honey. Oh, but definitely down with the patriarchy. So, like, in so many ways, without actually saying it, he is talking about how, like, a lot of sort of like SJW sort of super chaotic, like, left moralistic authoritarian types are like down with patriarchy, but he's trying to capitalize on them as like a boogeyman and saying like, oh, they're just against men altogether. That's not the case.
Say within the developmental pathway of your own son. And so some of that's familial breakdown, and then you have a multi-generational pattern of that makes it even worse. And so that's definitely part of it. You know, there's an ideological drum that's being beaten constantly, both on the sociological constructivist front, right? That's the oppressive patriarchy, and then on the environmental front. And then you add to that the fact that, well, on the leftists, especially the radical types, their whole damn doctrine, it's the most pathological doctrine you could invent if you set out to invent a pathological doctrine. And I mean that. I'm not making a joke. I really mean that in the deepest possible sense. The notion that the fundamental human motivation is the willingness and ability to use compulsion, power. It's all about power. And every time I hear that now from someone, I think, that is not a sociological observation.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Have you ever read Nietzsche's Will to Power? Absolutely. Everything in existence and in your life is about will to power. Even in hyperianism, we say every motive is like a will to power. You're either trying to increase power or give power up. Increase... Oh, Jesus Christ, these stupid wires. increase power or give power up, and sometimes you give power up to increase power, and it's not necessarily a malicious thing. That doesn't have to be a malicious thing. I know it sounds weird, like, oh, you're trying to increase power, you must be a Disney villain, but like, you want to have power over things, even if it's like your own bodily autonomy. So it's yes, that's exactly what it is. But like with Jordan Peterson being sort of a religious thinker, he would definitely lean towards like you're supposed to give your will to power to God.
That is a confession on your part. And it's also just complete bloody nonsense. I mean, you all know this. You have friends because they're compelled to be your friends?
Okay, you all, I love you all. I love you. I don't want to point a finger at you, but could you not, with the physical threatening, please? Can, we don't attack with hands here. We don't slap with hands, my dear, in this room. We slap with articulate, righteous, angry reason. Absolutely.
Like, that's definitely not how you have friends. You might have bully henchmen that way, but you don't have friends. Power is an extraordinarily unstable basis to establish a marriage on.
Sorry, I don't. At least give him a wedgie. Maybe a wedgie, but like, we don't slap with hands, children. We slap with reason and cold wit.
Just doesn't work, because it turns out that women who are so annoying are very difficult to oppress, So you can try, but it's not that easy. And I don't think that
What? What the fuck did he just say? What the fuck did he just say? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck did he just say?
Developmental pathway of your own son. And so some of that's familial breakdown, and then you have a multi-generational pattern of that makes it even worse. And so that's definitely part of it. There's an ideological drum that's being beaten constantly, both on the sociological constructivist front, right? That's the oppressive patriarchy, and then on the environmental front. And then you add to that the fact that,
what did you just say?
On the leftists, especially the radical types, their whole damn doctrine. It's the most pathological doctrine you could invent if you set out to invent a pathological doctrine. And I mean that. I'm not making a joke. I really mean that in the deepest possible sense. The notion that the fundamental human motivation is the willingness and ability to use compulsion, power. It's all about power. And every time I hear that now from someone, I think, that is not a sociological
Hold on, I'm just going to get there again. I swear. I just want to hear what I thought I heard.
On your part. And it's also just complete bloody nonsense. I mean, you all know this. You have friends because they're compelled to be your friends? Like, that's definitely not how you have friends. You might have bully henchmen that way, but you don't have friends. Power is an extraordinarily unstable basis to establish a marriage on. Plus, it just doesn't work, because it turns out that women who are so annoying are very difficult to oppress, So you can try, but it's not that easy. And I don't think that we've been all that historically successful in doing so.
I'm speechless. I am literally speechless. I am literally speechless. Jordan Peterson used to be so much more like covert. And here it is. It's difficult to repress women. No shit! It's difficult to repress anyone, you dumbass. And historically, it hasn't gone very well. Historically, it's gone pretty well. That's why we're still fucking angry. Am I going insane right now? Am I going insane, or did this is? And I love how everybody in the room is just laughing, like.
That makes it even worse. And so that's definitely part of it. You know, there's an ideological drum that's being beaten constantly, both on the sociological constructivist front, right? That's the oppressive patriarchy, and then on the environmental front. And then you add to that the fact that, well, on the leftists, especially the radical types, their whole damn doctrine, it's the most pathological doctrine you could invent if you set out to invent a pathological doctrine. And I mean that. I'm not making a joke. I really mean that in the deepest possible sense. The notion that the fundamental human motivation is the willingness and ability to use compulsion, power. Power. It's all about power. And every time I hear that now from someone, I think, that is not a sociological observation. That is a confession on your part. And so, and it's also just complete bloody nonsense. I mean, you all know this. You have friends because they're compelled to be your friends? Like, that's definitely not how you have friends. You might have bully henchmen that way, but...
Did it ever occur to you, Mr. Peterson, that women are with men because they're compelled to be with men?
You don't have friends. Power is an extraordinarily unstable basis to establish a marriage on. Plus, it just doesn't work because it turns out that women, who are so annoying, are very difficult to oppress, you know? So you can...
What is this bitch laughing about? What the fuck? Why is everybody... I'm going crazy. This is scary. Why is everybody in the room laughing like... Women are annoying and they can't be repressed. Like, what the hell? I'm disturbed. This is disturbing. Like, it's the most, like they just as well be dressed in, like, ridiculous, like, French aristocrat, like, clothing with the powdered faces and, like, the fucking tea sets and the pinky extended. Just, no! Oh!
But it's not that easy. And I don't think that we've been all that historically successful in doing so.
Yes, you have.
But it's also a preposterous proposition because the expression of power within an intimate relationship does not produce intimacy or a relationship. The best it can produce is like a combination of tyranny and slavery, and that does not characterize the institution of marriage per se. So there is this...
Yes, it does. Literally, marriage is founded on the idea that women are property. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Insistence among the radicals that power is the fundamental motivation, and then you think too, okay, you're only motivated by power. That means that we can only get along if our interests align, because if you're motivated by power and I'm motivated by power and our interests don't align, and there's nothing else but power, then the only option I have is to turn you into an enemy and try to destroy you, because we can't engage in dialogue.
Yeah, you mean like what you're doing right now, Jordon Peterson, by trying to like suggest that anything progressive is like a threat to men everywhere and your like personal like religious well-being. That's precisely what you're doing.
Dialogos. And the reason we can't engage in dialogue is because there's no logos. There's just power. So there's no such... This is why it's a good thing for conservatives to understand. You have to understand that the debate about free speech on campus, in the deepest sense, is not a debate about who should be allowed to speak freely. That's nothing. That's a trivial debate. You can even understand it in some sense. If I don't agree with you, maybe I don't want you to talk. But the debate is about something much deeper, which is whether or not the idea of free speech itself is just a mask developed essentially by Europeans to justify the oppressive patriarchy in the most devious possible way. And the answer the radicals have to that question is yes, that's exactly what it is. And so there's no free speech whatsoever. That's an illusion that's promulgated by people who are only trying to justify their claim to power. That's what the bloody argument is about. And I just think all of that's It's wrong in every way. It's wrong theologically, it's wrong psychologically, it's wrong scientifically. Even chimpanzees who have a patriarchal social structure, their social structures, if they are based on power, on compulsion, they're unstable, and the alpha chimps who use power are very likely to meet an extraordinarily brutal and premature end. So Frans de Waal, the Dutch primatologist, has detailed out this wonderfully. He's shown that even among our closest biological relatives,
We're not monkeys. Like, why? We're, at least here in this chat room, we're Hyperion, we're monads, we're above and beyond that sort of animalistic association. It's very weird. Who cares about that?
it's the ability to make peace and to engage in reciprocal interactions that constitutes the basis for a stable polity, even among chimps. And it's obviously the case that that's the proper basis for social relations, especially among free people. And I've been trying to puzzle out, especially in my lecture tour recently, what the antithesis to power is, or to the will to power, let's say, in terms of arbitrary compulsion. And it's something like the spirit of free and voluntary play.
I feel like he hasn't actually understood, like, what the will to power, like, means. Because, as I said before, like, even, like, in times of, like, giving up power is also a gesture of gaining power in the long run. So, I don't know where he's getting this all from.
And that's a wonderful thing to know. It's so optimistic. You guys were talking about optimism earlier, you know. So imagine this, is that if you structure your relations optimally, and I mean optimally, with yourself, with your intimate partner, with your family, with your community, the highest level of attainment of that structuring is the manifestation of the spirit of voluntary play. And that's so lovely because there's nothing better than playing, fundamentally. And, you know, human beings and other mammals as well also have a biological circuit that mediates play. That was discovered by a man named Jaak Panksepp, and he showed that play is unbelievably important to the development of children for a variety of complicated reasons, partly because they're practicing to be competent adults, but also that it can be suppressed by almost any other emotion or motivation. So your kids can't really play if they're hungry or tired or wet or upset. The same would apply within your relationship. If there's stresses and tensions, the play disappears. But if you optimize the relationship and the circumstance, then the spirit of play can manifest.
Yeah, but putting yourself in the situation where you can have that emotion of play, that still requires some power to get to that. So it still just is, like, bizarre to me that he's, like, trying to be so anti-power when it's kind of inarguable. And perhaps maybe Monday we will explore the concept of will to power and just how that is applicable in Hyperianism and what we mean when we talk about will to power and things like that. Because it's not strictly, like, Nietzschean, even though Nietzsche is, like, really fantastic. It's just, Hyperianism is its own special thing, so let's see.
Manifest itself. And I would also say that's also the fundamental purpose of fathers in some sense, is to imagine that paradise, that's a walled garden. That's what paradise means. So it's walls, structure, and then the garden inside is nature, and a nature that's tended. The masculine role in child rearing is something like the erection of the walls so that play can manifest itself within the walls.
Stop talking about erection and
That's a real good combination of security, because that's what the walls are for, but then the kind of freedom that allows for untrammeled development to occur in the most positive possible sense. And so I would say that those of us who are standing against the radicals who insist that the only human motivation is power can oppose that in part by putting forward the observation that the proper antithesis to that is the spirit of voluntary play. And that's what I hope we're going to do with the Daily Wire, right? Because that's what we've been doing, man. So.
Well, as I say, folks, we could not be more pumped up and ecstatic about having Jordon Peterson here at Daily Wire Plus. Dragons, Monsters, and Men is available right now at Daily Wire Plus. Jordon, you want to come join us here for the rest of Backstage?
Absolutely, man.
Okay. Well, great. So I think I wanted to get into Matt Walsh, but honestly, I think I've had enough. I think I've had enough. But I think you guys get the idea of this just being something that. Oh shit! Come back, music. We're not going to be covering Jordon Peterson all the time, but we will be visiting like what's going on there at the Daily Wire frequently because they are a very influential platform, and they should be criticized. And Jordon Peterson constantly tries to coin himself as somebody who's having like great ideas, but it's easy to see that there's not much happening there. So, I mean, there is a lot happening there. It's just bullshittery. Jordon Peterson is pretty out of touch with himself and the feminine side of himself. So, to be continued. Anyways, thank you guys so much for coming tonight. We're going to wrap it up. Please join us for... I don't know if we're going to be doing anything Monday. And the reason I say so is because I literally have to work. I am actually managing a 4th of July parade. I live in a small town and I have to help put on the parade. And that is going to take up like most of the morning and stuff, and usually I would be live streaming around like noon, but if I'm just getting home at that time, I'm going to be very tired, and in which case we will run into Morg's live stream anyway, so we might just forget Monday. Tuesday I work. Wednesday is usually a Hyperion source release, and then Thursday there's another Morg live stream. So realistically, we're probably not going to have another live stream till next Monday. But please, if you haven't, please like this stream, please share the stream, please support the channel, please encourage others to support the channel, join the channel, things like that. I have subscribe, things like that. My little subscribe loppy lump there, my little revolutionary unicorn. And then I also have a Patreon, patreon.com/JanEricksonOfficial. If you join that, you can get instant access to our Discord server in which you can talk with me more on a personal level. And for those of you who are expecting loppy lumps, I've been working on loppy lumps for the last 2 days, so I'm getting ready to send out a batch. If you're interested in a loppy lump, please message me, let me know. I will let you know how much they cost, and shipping is always included. They range from about like 30 to 50 bucks, but anyways, good night everybody. Thank you so much. Oh, my bangs are too short. That's okay. We all have those days where our bangs are too short, but they'll grow out soon. Jordon Peterson is a dork, but we'll make fun of him again soon. Thank you so much for everybody who is oh, and please tip at mindfulmonad.com. I definitely appreciate tips. I definitely need tips. I need all the help, financial support I can get. And hopefully we can gain more of a following and get the support way up, and I can do more big giant productions. Like, honestly, I would love to be able to have the kind of production that Jordon Peterson has, and not for some stupid freaking Twitter complaint, but, you know, for something that actually changes the world. Anyways. Good night, my lovely monads. Have a good weekend. Have a good 4th of July. If you're, you know, here in America, have some barbecue or whatever. And we will see you Friday. We will see you Friday. Next Friday. Next week. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining Monday Monad. Thank you so much for joining Monday Monad. Have a good weekend and relax. Thank you for joining. Oh, Monday Monad? Oh shit, Mindful Monad. I just fucked up with that. Thank you for joining Mindful Monad. I need to press the fucking shit in my head that it's Mindful Monad now. Not Monday Monad. Motherfucker, get with the program. Good night, everybody. Good night.